Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Shem Yahweh Shai, Shem Rakakwadash, and I want to say Shalom to Akmanakwat out there, pursuing this truth diligently, coming at you once again with another lesson. I don't have a title for this one yet, but it's dealing with these two posts that I came across on Reddit. Now, this one here that's on screen currently, this one, as you can see, it says it was submitted 2 days ago. As is with most of these Reddit posts, they come from the popular page, so whatever decides to show up, I save it. And, if the Spirit comes on me to do a lesson, I do it that way. And this was interesting, so I saved it. Nothing really came at the time being. And then, of course, this one I just saw this one today and saved it. So when this one came up, I said, all right, I need to go and get that other one, and we'll do a lesson on it. All right, through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And, of course, this is going to be another lesson dealing with the 10 horns, all right, hating the whore, all right, and making her desolate, all right. And I guess the best way to start up with that, all right, would be to go and, most people are familiar at this point, all right, that have been on the channel. All right, but and this is not something that you can necessarily learn in one day. This is something you got to learn. Listen to the elders and apostles. All right, of Great Millstone, which I'm not a part of, but that's who I learn from. If you want to learn, I recommend you do the same. All right, learning from those men and like-minded individuals. All right, and making sure and vetting them as like-minded individuals. Okay, because some might say they're teaching the same thing, but they're not. All right, so and I at least try to teach the same to the best of my ability. If I stumble or stutter or slip up on something, I try to correct that. Because I'm trying to teach as according to the Bible. All right, which is the same way GMS teaches it. All right, and they're pretty much the only ones that are doing that. And then of course, the people that are teaching in like manner, not affiliates. All right, because the apostles, pretty much abolished that term. But people that are teaching in the like manner, you're either teaching right or you're teaching wrong. All right, there's no in between. And GMS is teaching right. All right, so whoever you're watching, they should either be GMS or teaching the same thing as GMS. All right, but right here, all right, as you watch GMS, you can see in the bottom left corner. All right, you can see the GMS, not logo. They don't really have a logo, but a marking. All right, that shows you, who made it. Same thing with the 12 tribe sign, right? At least the one that they use, the one that can be vetted as being accurate, right? Not one of those BOI things where it's all all blickety blick black all the way down to the bottom, right? So right here is the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, all right? So, and it says the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns is NATO. All right. Now, the NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. All right, and it is what is NATO really? All right, let's ask, what is NATO? It's a treaty. All right, it's an organization, a group of Edomite nations that work together. But what is NATO? All right, really? Okay, what is NATO? It says NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is a military and political alliance, okay, of 32 North American and European countries, founded in 1949 to ensure collective security. So it was originally established, for all these Edomite nations to, come together and establish, global security, right? It says, meaning an attack on one member is an attack on all, okay, Article 5. It says it serves as a forum for political consultation and military cooperation, safeguarding members' freedom and security through shared democratic values and joint defense against threats like terrorism, cyber attacks, and aggression, with its core principle of mutual defense enshrined in Article 5. Now, the reason why this is so important to know what NATO is and about Article 5, all right, you can go and look up NATO Article 5, and I guess Article 5 is the one that really shows you an attack on one is an attack on all, right? Now, I'm not too familiar with it, all right? We're reading as we go, but that's what I picked up from it. So Article 5 is the cornerstone, all right? It says of its collective defense, stating that an armed attack against one member in Europe or North America is considered an attack against all, obligating or obliging all other members to assist, including the use of armed force to restore security. It has only been invoked once, following the September 11, 2001 attacks on the United States. Okay, I'm not going to say that word because it'll just flag the video. But you can see it. So, you know, it would lead to patrols. So, we have Donald Trump. Okay. He actually, Donald Trump, Greenland. Everybody should be familiar with him wanting to, you know, take over Greenland. You know, Trump won't say whether he would use force to seize Greenland. Trump hits alternate tactics to acquire Greenland. So really, he's trying to not necessarily just annex. All right, he's trying to colonize. And if you look at annexation versus colonization, what's the difference? Okay. So, annexation is the formal incorporation of a territory into a state, making it legally part of that country, often after military force. I guess it would be considered annexed. While colonization involves settling and establishing political, economic control over one people's lands, often creating a distinct colony or society with deep social, cultural, and economic changes, not always direct integration into the colonizer's nation. So yeah, I mean, it would be a little bit of a mix of both, because really they want to bring American, you know, values, all right, or lack of value, the lack of American moral, right, and that goes back to the social, cultural, and economic changes, all right, placing in the, you know, the United States dollar, you know, American culture, all right, Americanizing it, right. So, going back, he actually just, they actually have a name for it now. It's called the Greenland Crisis. Okay, the second Trump administration has pursued a campaign to annex, they're calling it annexation, all right, to annex Greenland, part of the Kingdom of Denmark. And, you know, they're also talking, the ruler of Denmark, whatever you want to call him, is out openly talking about against, all right, the Trump administration and their seek to take over Denmark. It says, triggering a confrontation between the United States and Denmark, supported by EU and several other NATO members. Trump had previously attempted to purchase Greenland during his first presidency, with the Danish and Greenlandic government stating that Greenland is not for sale. Following continued escalations during 2025 and 2026, U.S. actions have been described by academics and commentators as a form of hybrid warfare. All right, and in 2026 led to a U.S.-EU trade war. It has been described as the greatest transatlantic crisis in generations. So there you go. You know, people are really hating America. You know, if you look at the way, and people have always had really like a beef or a bone to pick with America. But if you look at the way people are talking about America now, I mean, we never really had that much beef. And I say we as in the people that are living here, not us as American citizens, because we don't consider ourselves them in this truth. By legal definition, we are, but we as in this country, all right, that I happen to be dwelling in, never really had any issues with Canada, all right, for one, but now, you know, we, and I do say we, even though we're not, you know, again, we distance ourselves from the society, but we have issues because it affects us as well, just living here. We have issues because now, you know, good prices are going up because Trump and his whole, his tirade of, what's the word, his tariff tirade, all right. It's and it is negatively affecting us not necessarily as American citizens, but us as in the people who happen to live here. Okay, and we are legally citizens. So they're not citizens. We are citizens, all right, by definition. But we consider ourselves Israelites, not Americans. Okay, Americans, all right, really, because they can't get anything done. So, you know, that's what's going on. Is, you know, the Trump's running this place into the fucking ground. All right, he's burning bridges. And he thinks, you know, he's making America great again, but he's really making America fall again, all right, or making Babylon fall again, all right, or making Rome fall again, All right, or whatever you want to call it. All right, it's the fall of Rome again, and really, it would be, if you really want to get down to what it would be, it's making Rome fall again, because he was a big progenitor in the fall of Rome. All right, as Nero. All right, so Nero 47. All right, as you hear the apostles call him. And that's who he is. All right, and that's why understanding reincarnation from a biblical standpoint is so important. All right, because a lot of people don't understand reincarnation. They don't understand the chariots. All right, they don't understand what the chariots are. So when you start talking about reincarnation or spaceships, they look at you like you're crazy. All right, but it's because it's something that they've never heard of before. All right, for example, if you went back 1,000 years ago, all right, and started telling people that you had this little device that you could ask questions and do all these things in your pocket, all right, and you could call someone across the country on, they'd look at you like you're crazy, because why? They don't have any understanding of it. Okay, so if you don't have any understanding of something, you either look into it and gain an understanding, and of course in this case it would be if Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai wanted you to have an understanding, or you reject it and think it's something that sounds outlandish. Okay, in this case a lot of these people think it sounds outlandish, and it's really because they don't have the understanding. But Trump is Nero. He's doing the same things as Nero. All right, we'll see if he goes out like Nero at the end of the day. All right, the Lord could preserve him and keep him, even if he does, do the old the self sleep. All right, even if he does the old self sleep, all right, the Lord could bring him back so he could still go into captivity. So we'll see if he pusses out like Nero did at the end. But we'll just have to see how bad it gets for him, really, at the end of the day, and it's gonna get bad. All right, but with all these things, with Greenland and Denmark and all these different things, we have this. All right, it says this is it. Every right winger's nightmare, and it says troops from Denmark, Germany, France, Sweden, and Finland have arrived in Greenland to boost security. So the reason why this is so important, because this is a direct militarization, or this is a direct movement, all right, against the United States. All right, to provide support and boost security for Greenland. All right, so there's a word for it. They're not strategizing, but they're rolling out. All right, they're rolling out in sense. Okay, you got Denmark, Germany, France, Sweden, and Finland. Now, if you go over here and you look at NATO, all right, or you look, or really you look at the EU, because we're talking about the 10 horns. All right, we got Denmark and Belgium. Okay, Denmark. Well, they didn't say Belgium, but Denmark, okay, Germany, okay, Denmark, Germany, okay, France, Sweden, and Finland, okay. Now, Sweden and Finland are not on here necessarily, all right, but they're really starting to, they're really, they are not necessarily, they lean more towards EU than they do with NATO, because at the end of the day, they're European. Okay, so they're like they stick up for themselves, right? But they're not necessarily on here, but they are in. They're not on this list either of NATO, because they're newer additions, Sweden and Finland. But these are the 10 horns. All right, this is the beast. The beast is their system. All right, the beast is the Edomite so-called white people system. All right, and I say so-called white people because not all white people are Edomites, but that's their original, how they look like. Really, they're not white; they're red. All right, the red people. All right, are originally, the Edomites. Okay, so this is the Edomite system. All right, we say so-called white because most of them that you see are so-called white today, but not everybody that's white is an Edomite. Okay, so but this is their system, the beast system, the Edomite system. You see Germania Major, the Romans, the French, the Spanish, Germania Minor, the British, and the Greeks. All right, and then who's at the great top? Who's at the top? All right, riding them is the Great Whore, America. All right, Babylon the Great. All right, at one point it was called Mystery Babylon, but it's not a mystery no more. Okay, we know who Babylon is. It's America. All right, specifically the United States of America. All right, so and United States of America is going to be completely vaporized into a desert. All right, Canada and Mexico, they're still going to exist as countries, but Babylon's going to go away. Okay, Babylon is going to go away. As the apostles say, there's going to be a big desert in the middle of them. All right, it's going to be Canada, a big ass desert, and then Mexico. All right. So, continuing on, so it says the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns is NATO. So this is the NATO, all right? You got the 7 heads, which are, of course, the kingdoms or governments or kingdoms ruled by Esau, all right? The so-called white man's rulership nations, all right, in government, all right? His rule, his system, beast system, all right? It's the white man's rule, right? And then you have the Great Whore, which, of course, is America, that sits on top all right, of the 7 heads, all right, of all the 7 heads, she's the top, all right, and it has 10 horns, all right, 7 heads and 10 horns, and the horns are the European nations, all right. You can see right here the 10 horns represent the common market or the European Economic Community, established in 1958, all right. Today it's known as the European Union, all right, the EU. So these guys are already all right, making moves, all right, and there's a word I'm thinking of and I just can't think of it. I just can't think of it. There's a word I'm thinking of and I just can't put the tongue on it. Making advancements, militarizing, all right, however you want to call it, making advancements, all right, to roll out and basically to get Revelation 17 underway, right? And so you see troops from Denmark, Germany, France, Sweden, and Finland have arrived in Greenland to boost security. All right, so this is really 10 horns, all right, with a couple friends, all right, that, are really regretting their NATO acceptance right here, Sweden and Finland. They're really getting ready to, get Revelation 17, 16, 17 underway, okay? And you can see right here with this other one, it says Greenland leader tells people to prepare for possible invasion. All right, and by who? By who? Okay, the United States of America. All right, an invasion, and that's what's happening. All right, it's an invasion. There's going to be invasions. All right, wars, rumors of wars. All right, kingdom against kingdom, people. King against king, people against people. All right, friend against friend, neighbor against neighbor. There's going to be everyone's going to be put against everyone, all right, and that the Edomite's going to be against the Edomite, all right, or as it says in scriptures, I shall set the Egyptian against the Egyptian, all right. This place is spiritually Egypt, all right, spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. And, there was a dumbass long ago said there's no such thing as spiritual Egypt. And why does the scripture say that in that city that is called spiritually called Sodom and Egypt? Why does it say that? Okay, and why is it? It says where also our Lord was crucified. Why? Because spiritually, the Lord has been crucified here. He's been blasphemed and tarnished and spiritually spat on. All right, in the society, and hated. All right, and if he was around walking, these leaders would crucify him again. All right, they absolutely would, because they have a hate and a disdain for the Heavenly Father and His Son. Okay. Father being Yahweh and the Son being Yahweh Shai. They have a disdain, a deep burning hatred. Okay, so and Greenland's preparing people. Hey man, there could be a possible invasion any moment now. All right, we could see boots on ground. Okay, and this all goes into Revelation 17 and 16, 17, and the apostles have been telling you for years. All right, the apostles have been telling you for years. I can't say I've been saying for a number of years, but who did I learn it from? The apostles. They've been saying it for years upon years, decades at this point, man, decades at this point. All right, and a decade, all right, is 10 years. All right, they've been in this truth upwards 30, 40 years. So yes, decades. Okay, decades. Revelation 17 and 16, it says, in the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, as we just showed you, these shall hate the whore. Who is the whore again? America. All right, the 10 horns, the EU, the European nations, all right, shall hate America. Right, is what's being said here. It says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Stop. What does desolate mean? Desolate. A deserted of a place, deserted of people in a state of bleak and dismal emptiness. So these people, ultimately, they're going to launch nukes. All right, it's not just going to be the foreign adversaries of America. It's not just going to be Russia. It's not going to just be North Korea and China and Iran. It's not going to be just them, all right? It's going to be so-called allies, all right? Allies turned into enemies, okay? And it says, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. How are they going to burn her with fire? Nuclear missiles, ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. That's what's going to happen. You don't believe it? Fuck off then, all right? We don't care, all right? Now, when you're fucking sitting there and you hear the fucking sirens going off, and you're sitting there with your fucking butthole clenching, trying to hold in that shit that's dribbling down your leg, all right, and you're pissing yourself, then you're gonna know, oh, they were right, all right? But hey, if you don't believe it, you don't have to believe it, all right? But just remember us when that shit's dribbling down your leg, all right? Really don't remember us. Remember the words of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, all right? All we did was speak them, all right? So all we are is a talking vessel. All right, think of us as a gramophone. We're not the record, we're just the speaker. Okay, so it says, for Yahweh hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will And see why? Why is this going to happen? Why are they going to destroy? Why? Well, they would never do that. That would be such a dangerous and hostile and irresponsible thing to do, because it would basically disrupt the whole, world. It would the whole world would be just in chaos. All right, they would disrupt the economic and balance of the world. They don't care. They're going to do it. Why? Why? Verse 17, for Yahweh hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will. And what is the will of the Father? That this place is utterly, completely destroyed, dissolved, abolished, melted, and desertized. All right, and that's not even a word, desertized, but desertized, all right, to make into a desert. All right. It says, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. And what were the words that are going to be fulfilled? Babylon the Great is fallen and has become a habitation, all right, of devils and every unclean bird. All right, roughly paraphrasing. Revelation 18 and 1. Okay, let's get it. All right. We'll start from 2. All right. It says, Revelation 18 and 2, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, well, I'll start from 1. Revelation 18 and 1, and after these things I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And it says, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Boom. It's going to become, that's it. It's going to be likened to a desert. All right. There. Man, I always forget it. Let me see. I mean, you can get 13 here. Jeremiah 50 and 13, it says, because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited, but it shall be wholly desolate. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at all her plagues. And Babylon, it was Babylon, the same thing, really worse than what happened to old Babylon is going to happen to new Babylon. Because at the end of the day, if you name yourself, they didn't name themselves, it is just New Babylon. And why is it New Babylon? Because it's going to be destroyed the same way. And Babel means confusion. There's a scripture, yeah, here we go. Verse 19. Isaiah 13 and 19, it says, and Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Let me just book a trip to Sodom and Gomorrah real quick. Oh, wait, I can't. Verse 20, it says, and it shall never, it shall never be inhabited. What does inhabited mean? All right, I'll go into the word. It doesn't really need to be broke down.
Inhabit.
Lived in or occupied. All right, there you go. Well, by human, right? Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. Even the heathens aren't going to be dwelling there. Because neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. You know how bad a place has got to be to where even the heathens aren't going to dwell there? We're not going to dwell there. It's just going to be a place for beasts. That's it. It says, but wild beasts of the desert shall live there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. All right, satyrs. All right, they're you see, they're like half man, and it's basically beasts and creatures. All right, shall dance there. Okay, so we don't really know. It says, and the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places. and her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. So we don't know what's going to be dwelled. I mean, you got to think about it. Now, again, I talk about cryptids and cryptozoology, and I don't necessarily, think that, Bigfoot's some bullshit. All right, that was just a gag done by some people in a gorilla suit. But other creatures that the Lord has. All right. For example, I mean, if you look at the Chupacabra, I mean, I'm pretty much convinced that that one exists. How far fetched is it to believe that there's a dog-like creature that drinks the blood of goats? All right, primarily, its primary prey is goats. I mean, they have vampire bats; they drink blood. All right, mosquitoes drink blood, but it's impossible for a tiny little dog-like, fox-like creature to do it. I mean, that sounds pretty plausible to me. All right, and you say, oh, that doesn't exist. Esau doesn't know what the fuck's out there. They have no idea what's out there. If a whole bunch of Mexican people, so-called, all right, they're really Issacharites, if a whole bunch of Issacharites, all right, are saying, their sheeps are curling up with these holes all over the neck and that they're being drained of blood, then there's probably, and they've seen it, there's probably a little fucking creature. Now, I don't believe in the alien-like versions where they say, oh, it's like this creature, it's green with spikes on its back. No. All right, but they have seen little like dog-like creatures with longer snouts and I mean, come on now. I mean, we got anteaters out there. Those don't seem plausible. They got a tube nose that they shove in the ground to eat ants, but they're there. All right, and then you got to think about Leviathan. All right, Leviathan, basically a giant sea serpent. All right, and then you got to look into things like Nessie. All right, if there's Leviathan, Nessie, we don't think Nessie exists. All right, I mean, Esau doesn't know what is and what there isn't. All right, they say, oh, all dinosaurs and all these creatures went out. How do we know? How do we know that this wasn't, is a creature like this so implausible? Okay, it doesn't seem that implausible to me. All right, there's a lot of creatures out there. All right, this doesn't seem too implausible to me, especially when you have things biblically like Leviathan. All right, and it might have been just the last one. All right, or some creature that lived, for a long time, and Esau is going and trying to figure it out and fuck with it. We don't know at the end of the day. We have no idea. Okay, we have no idea exactly what it is. Okay, but this could be a place. Babylon could be a place for all those creations. All right, to be. Okay, so we don't know what's out there at the end of the day, and there's some shit that's gonna sound a little bugged out and a little crazy, but we don't really know what's out there, man. Right? We have no idea what's out there. There's reports of dog-like, almost humanoid creatures out in the middle of national forests that people see, and a lot of fucking reports. All right, not like no vampires or Bigfoot, but we don't know what's out there. All right, there could be a hairy beast-like, almost canine-looking creature. All right, out there. We don't know. We have no idea what's out there, and that's really shows you the power of the Lord, that you don't know what's out there. All right, and again, with this truth, you have to have a closed, receptive mind. All right, not an open mind, but you have to understand that things that once seemed crazy to us, all right, are not. Think about it. Black men as angels, so-called black men as angels, flying around in spaceships, to the untrained, unlearned mind, sounds fucking crazy, does it not? It does. To the average person, that's why they're like, that's fucking crazy. Y'all are crazy. Yeah, we can see how it could seem crazy because you haven't seen the scriptures, you haven't been instructed, you haven't looked, you haven't seen the proof and the evidence of it, and searched the scriptures and seen the chariots and got an understanding. So, little green men from outer space flying around, or a foreign government, controlling these things seems more plausible to you. But when you really understand how they work, all right, and that they're pretty much pure radiation, and that a human being really wouldn't be able to even pilot them, you start to ask questions. You start to see in the scriptures where it talks about he makes the clouds as chariots. You look into clouds. You look into, and I saw a roll, all right, wheel within a wheel, all right, and there was an eye and barrel, and then you add all these things up, and Elijah, all right, and Ezekiel, and all these different accounts, and Yahushai's departure, all right, and you start to come to the conclusion, if you have the Holy Spirit working with you, that this sure sounds like a what people would call a spaceship that they're going up in, okay? And you say, oh, it was a cloud. Yeah, well, you're not going to say it was a UFO. UFO wasn't a term until the 1950s. And you're not going to say Foo Fighter because there wasn't, the United States wasn't in a fight with the Japanese at the time. So you're not going to say Foo Fighter. And you're not going to say flying saucer, all right, because you didn't really refer things as saucer. So what are you going to say? It moves around. It's in the sky. It goes up and down. It disappears in and out. It's like a cloud. Okay, it's like a cloud. Okay. Anyway, so we don't know all these sorts of crazy, like it says, wild beasts, whether it be animals or Leviathan or other things. That's probably going to be their land, all right, where the Lord sends them to be, right? So, and I mean, we're gonna have like lions and stuff, but other things, like Leviathan and stuff, that's probably going to be the dwelling place of those creatures, all right, is Babylon, all right. Like it says, if we look up there, doleful creatures, all right, what is a doleful creature? All right, mournful, howling animals, jackals, owls, hyenas, okay, ostriches, howling beasts in general, all right, so, they're just going to be out there, all right, we don't know what type of, all type of beasts they're going to be, all right, that's what I'm saying, certain things like that, your mind should be aware of, okay, so there's going to be things that are crazy, again, not saying that any of those things 100% exist, I'm just saying that with all the things that we know now, we only know those things now, other than from the scripture, is because of Esau's little events. They say, there's this many species of butterfly. How do we know? How do we know there's not 10,000 more or 10 million more that Esau just hasn't discovered? Okay, or they say, nothing like that could exist. How do we know? Because you said so. I don't buy into Esau's so-called knowledge. All right, it says in verse 21, but wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. All right, so, and then of course 22, and the wild beasts of the islands shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant places, and her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. And, people talk about dragons as not existing. I believe in some capacity that dragons existed. There's no way that you have England and Scotland and Japan and Middle East and, in the Bible, all right, all mentioning these dragon creatures, all right, when, especially with history dating back to a time where so-called they didn't have communication, all right? There wasn't a lot of communication between up into a certain point of time. There was not a lot of communication in texts and in visions and things that have been seen between other nations, all right, abroad before, boats, all right, became a big thing, allegedly, all right? So, and you all have these things being described as the same. Just got to think about things, man. Just got to think about things. But anyway, we're ready to get out of here, all right? We're ready for these 10 horns, all right, to make this place desolate, all right, and we're ready for Babylon to be destroyed because we want to get the hell out of here, all right? 2 Peter 3:13 says, nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness, all right? So, then of course, it tells, it goes on in verse 14 to say, if you're doing that, then, you should be making sure that you're being diligent, all right, so you can be found, all right, blameless and without spot. All right, unblemished, right? So, as much as you can, all right, in Yahweh Shem Shai's eyes, at least. All right, which really, the only ones that are going to be found blameless is going to be the elect. All right, so we're just hopeful we're of that number, Lord willing. But yeah, we're ready to get the hell out of here. We're sick of Esau's kingdom. We're ready for our Lord's kingdom. All right, Esau's kingdom is a piece of shit. All right, the rule sucks. All right, the prices suck. You can't own anything. You work yourself for a dog, and you don't get any return from it. You can't afford groceries. You can't afford a house. Everybody's living with their parents now, or their grandparents, or someone. You can't even own a fucking house anymore. You can't barely even fucking rent a house anymore. You got scholars out there that have been to Harvard and Cambridge and all these places that are having to move back home with their fucking parents. All right, oranges are fucking like $3 a piece now. It's fucking retarded, man. It's retarded. The society is retarded. All right, and you're saying oranges ain't $3 here in Vegas? They are. All right, yes, the fuck they are. Absolutely. All right, you can get the cheap bullshit oranges for like $1 a piece. They never used to be that. They used to sell them by the pound. All right, they used to sell oranges by the pound. Now they're selling them by the fruit. Okay, which is ridiculous. It used to be like $1 a pound. All right, or $2.20 a pound. They're not being sold by the pound now. All right, and I've been multiple places. All right, and they're not selling them by the pound. All right, I've been to Sprouts or as they would call Kroger. All right, the health food stores. All right, I haven't checked at Walmart because I don't get my produce from Walmart because it fucking sucks. But hey, if that's what you got to do, you got to do. And you're not gonna get that much off, and it's gonna taste like shit. You'd rather pay the 50 cents for a juicy orange, and that's something that tastes like fucking doo-doo ass. All right, you don't want that. But and they overly wax the apples anyway. So fuck Walmart anyway. But you know, that's insane for orange. I mean, if you go and look up, all right, let's go and look up, let's just look up Kroger, all right, or Smith's, all right, and bear with me. I'm gonna pause it in case, you know, the one close to my house comes up. Give me a minute. All right, got in here on, you know, one that I'm not remotely even near. So I'm gonna go and look up oranges, okay, just to show you how fucking crazy this place has got. 87 cents each. That is a damn lie. Okay, that is a damn lie. Look at this. So look, fresh navel oranges. I haven't seen these ones sold there personally. They say they're, well, maybe that other one, but not the one I go to. Red navel oranges, 87 cents each. They say or $1.99 a pound. So you don't weigh them. All right, they're sold by per one. I'm gonna see how much they Cara oranges are. All right, because these are the ones I bought. They don't even have them. Half these prices are a damn lie anyway. All right, but you get 3 pounds. That's like 4 or 5 oranges there. All right, for $5. That's $1 an orange, and it's basically $1 an orange, which is crazy. All right, $1 an orange is crazy. Okay, first of all, you know, you get 10 oranges. That's $10. That's insane. So even with these prices, that's already insane. But anyway, all right, you go look at anything. I mean, even at the Smiths I go to, you know, all the meat's right by itself. So you know, it goes. I think it goes turkey, chicken, pork, beef. Okay, turkey, chicken, pork, beef. All right, and right between pork and beef, I think there's also like lamb or something like that. And you know, we don't eat pork. All right, in this truth, but I have looked at the prices just to see, because pork is a good way to value how much prices are going up, because pork is cheap dog shit. All right, it's always been very cheap. Okay. But when you look at it now, all right, this is a damn lie. All right, they say it's $5. You know, I could have not swore, because you know that saying, I could have swore. I saw one time they were like $9. All right, and then I'm gonna look up chicken too. All right, showing you just how the society's going, because chicken, that's about right. That's about right. About $15. All right, $14-15 for a pack of chicken, which is fucking insane. All right, I said, look, chicken thighs, $11. I haven't seen those. The cheapest we got a deal on, I think one time it was like $12. All right, $7 for some chicken tenderloins. You know, those are thin shits. But if you want the chicken breast, it's expensive. All right, it's very expensive. You know, a pack of sausages, a pack of organic chicken sausages, $8 for a pack of sausage. All right, if you want anything that's not gonna murder you, all right, it's gonna be. I mean, they even want for boneless, skinless Tyson chicken breast, and you should never eat Tyson. They want $10 for that. All right, those used to be like $4 or $5. Okay, but anyway, I'll go on a rant about some groceries. So why would we want to stay here, where we can't even afford to live? Okay, we're looking to, again, for a new heaven and new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. All right, we're not going to have to spend absorbent amounts of money, because guess what? We're gonna have it. All right, we're gonna have it. All right, we're not gonna have to worry about food scarcity or shelter scarcity. So this is Colossians 3:1. It says, "If ye then be risen with Hamashiach, seek those things which are above, where Hamashiach sitteth on the right hand of Yahweh. Set your affections on things above, not on things of this earth." Not on things on the earth, excuse me. All right, for ye are dead, and your life is hid with Hamashiach and Yahweh. This place is done. We don't have nothing here. Okay, we don't have nothing here. All right, going into Hebrews 13 and 14. For here we have no continuing city, but we seek one to come. All right, we seek one to come. We ain't got shit here. All right, we ain't got nothing here. Okay, there's nothing worth having here in the first place. Okay, so And we're like I wanted to get Romans 8 and 18 here because we're gonna go through hell, we're gonna suffer, all right. But guess what? It doesn't matter at the end of the day for the grand scale of things. Okay, Romans 8 and 18 it says, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be received in us." So they're not worthy to, the absolute reward that we're gonna see, all right, when Yahushua returns and we get on the way to establishing the kingdom. All right, as soon as we're out of here, it's going to be a lot better for us. Now, things got to get harder before they get better. All right, so like I said, I always use the not an acronym, but the example of ripping off a band-aid. It hurts, but it's got to be done, or else it's just going to fester. And this country and this world and this society, all right, has been festering. All right, the wound under there needs healed. All right, it needs healed. And it's gonna suck when you rip off that wound, that band-aid, and you get a little bit of that scab with it. Right, because this place is scabbed up. All right, and it's really not even fully scabbed. It's because a scab equates to healing. Okay, this place, it's just festering under there. It's like, I'm not gonna be gross, but when a wound's not really healing, it's all like gooey and pussy, and that's what this place is. All right, it's just disgusting and festering and nasty. Okay, and you don't want that. And you know what happens to a section of skin that's festered so much it dies? You know what has to happen to it? It has to be cut off. Okay, it has to be cut off. So this kingdom is right now, Esau is likened into a wound that needs to be cut off. All right, it needs to be cut off. All right, and it's part of a different body even. All right, so really this whole body of this world and this society needs to die. Okay, so there's no great gains that we're gonna seek here. We're not looking for gains and for rewards here, right? In verse Philippians 3 and 7, it says, "But what things were gained to me, those I counted loss for Hamashiach. Ye doubtless, and I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Hamashiach Yahushua my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win Hamashiach, and be found in him, not having my own righteousness, which is of the law, but that which is through the faith of Hamashiach, the righteousness which is of Yahweh by faith." So there you go. Let's continue on. It says in verse 10, it says, "That I may know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his sufferings, being made conformable unto his death." In verse 11, that's why I want to continue on because it was heavy. It says, "But if by any means I might attain unto the resurrection of the dead." By any means. Okay? By any means. There you go. So, but yeah, man. This society, we client all things for a lot. Yeah, we could sell drugs and probably have a little bit more money, but we're not going to do that because that's wickedness, and ultimately it would just lead to a shorter life because we would be put to death for that. Okay, so all those things, we count them as dung. And you know what dung is? Another not so nice word for dung? Shit. Okay, we're not looking for a reward on this side. All right, we're forfeiting all of our worldly rewards, which aren't really mean anything. If you go into, is it Matthew? Yeah, Matthew 6 and 19. It says, "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon heaven." Matthew 6 and 19. "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal." Why would you want anything here? Okay? It says, where thieves break through and steal. So all the shit you have here, moths are going to eat at it. All right? It's going to rust, all right, or break, or become brittle, all right, or someone's going to come through and steal it. Why would you want that? Okay? Verse 20, it says, "But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." And that doesn't mean you can't have a Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. That don't mean you can't have those things. All right, an Xbox, PlayStation 4, a car, whatever it happens to be. It's just that can't be your savior to you. All right, that don't mean shit at the end of the day. Those are nothing. Okay, and if you had to lose them, you should be able to lose them and count them as dung. All right, if they had to go away, they had to go away. All right, they're nothing at the end of the day. We like them, but they don't mean anything. All right, so really, everything in this world it should be counted as shit. All right, for the sake of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. All right, it's just like the parable of the rich man. He went away sorrowful, for he had many possessions. All right. If you were in that situation, that scenario, you say, and the Lord said, sell what you have and come serve me. You should say, yeah, screw all these things. I'm going to fucking sell them. I don't, I don't even need them at all. All right. That's how it should be. No, my stuff. Inside joke, right? But you know, it shouldn't be like that. All right, it should be easy. Yeah, you're right, Lord. I'm serving you. These don't mean anything. Boom, done. All right. And because this is all the Stanford Marshmallow Experiment, and that's the experiment that Esau fails. All right, the Stanford Marshmallow experiment tested delayed gratification in preschoolers, offering one treat immediately or two if they waited. All right, you want the one treat right now. All right, this world. We are going to get the two, which means we're going to get an abundance. All right, our society is going to be not even 2 times better. It's going to be 7 times better. And I say 7 complete. It's going to be even more than 7 times, but a complete times number of better. Billion, gazillion, trillion. There's not even a word that can describe how much better it's going to be than this society. We're wanting that. We're wanting the 2 marshmallows, not the 1. You want the 1. See, I'm going to live up in this society. And Jake does it too, not just Esau, because Jake is really in an Esau-like mindset right now. All right, the violent, inhospitable, violent, sexual deviant, drug lust, bloodthirsty demon. All right, that's whose culture is that? Esau. All right, so a lot of these Jakes have become Edomitified. All right, they become Idumeanized. All right, or ultimately Babylonianized. So, and you want that one I'm gonna sell drugs, fuck bitches. Go ahead, Jake. Have your 1 marshmallow. Okay? Have your 1 marshmallow. All right? We're not gonna do any of those things. Oh, you're gonna just be a bum and suffer and not get a good job? Yep. Because guess what? At the end of the day, all right, whatever you want to call us, we're trying to get our 2 marshmallows. You can be the moron that took 1. All right? And guess what they found out? It says researchers found kids who waited often had better life outcomes. They went on to be something in life. All right? It says, but later studies questions its predicted power. Nah, because they found out certain of those kids were fucking failures. Okay? So there you go. You know, children who waited longer tended to have higher SAT scores, better social skills, and healthier lifestyles later in life. Okay? So there you go. All right? They were smarter. The people who waited longer were equated with higher intelligence. All right? Higher SAT scores, which SAT, of course, is just all a bunch of bullshit. But, I mean, it has some, you know, it can determine some amount of intelligence, but it's not really the full way. The way Esau determines intelligence is primarily through ability to obey and follow instruction, not as in, you know, raw power of the mind. So this is Philippians 3:17. All right, jumping down, because earlier we were in 7, but now we're in 17. It says, brethren, be followers together of me, and mark them which walk so as ye have us for an example, or ensample. It's an archaic form of example. It says, for many walk, of whom I have told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are the enemies of the cross of Hamashiach, whose end is destruction, whose power is their belly, and whose glory is in their shame, who mind earthly things. For our conversation is in heaven, from whence also we look for the Savior, the Lord, Yahushua Hamashiach, who shall change our vile body, that it may be fashioned like unto his glorious body. So we're going to have like a body like Yahushua. It says, according to the working whereby he is able even to subdue all things unto himself. So that's what we're waiting for. We're waiting for, look at that top, the goal of life. Okay, and you can really read on down. But we're here to serve Yahweh Shai, all right, to be focused on heavenly things and not on worldly things. Okay, so I made a lesson quite a long time ago titled "Good news or bad news for you is good news for us." Okay, and I don't know what I'm going to title this one, but you know, something will come through me through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shai, Lord willing. But something along that same vein. You know, this world passing away doesn't do us a damn bit of harm. Okay, you know, like I said, we might get a little bit of dust on us. All right, we might get a little bit of some scraped up knees, but at the end of the day, we're gonna live. All right, we're not gonna be mortally wounded or killed. I mean, we might be for the sake of Yahweh Shai as martyred, but that's not really death in a sense of, you know, a punishment of this world. That's martyrdom. Really, it's a noble cause. Okay, and be put to death by the people of this world, all right, but not by Yahweh Shai. And for those people, didn't the Lord do? Yes, he technically did do it, but it's a noble cause and not as a death of judgment. Okay, but anyway, I wouldn't expect you to know, Weather Boy. Wouldn't you like to know, Weather Boy? All right, or wherever that said. But yeah, anyway, so that's the lesson. All right, this place don't mean shit to us. All right, at all. And I might just title it that, something along that line. right? Or Babylon ain't worth a food stamp, all right, or something like that. But anyway, that's the lesson, all right? We're going to close it out there. Lord, when it was edifying, again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakak. I want to say shalom to you brothers and sisters out there. Keep enduring, keep the faith. We're almost out of here. Till next one, Lord willing. Shalom.